In 1971, one of Britain's most famous engineering companies nearly disappeared. Rolls-Royce, a name that had represented engineering excellence for generations, was forced into receivership. And the reason wasn't a scandal or a catastrophic management failure. It was a jet engine. The RB211 was supposed to revolutionize commercial aviation, but development costs spiraled so far out of control that the engine nearly bankrupted the entire company. The British government had to step in and nationalize Rolls-Royce to save it. And this reveals something strange about modern aviation. Every time you fly on a Boeing or Airbus aircraft, you're trusting one of the most technologically advanced machines ever built. But the company whose name is written on the side of the aircraft didn't actually build the component that makes it fly. Welcome to Simple Concepts Explained. Today we're pulling back the curtain on the strange relationship between Boeing, Airbus, and the companies that build their engines, and why the world's two biggest aircraft manufacturers have deliberately stayed out of the engine business. To understand why, we need to go back almost 100 years. In 1929, William Boeing and Frederick Rentschler, the president of Pratt Whitney, joined forces to create United Aircraft and Transport Corporation. It was aviation's first truly vertically integrated empire. Boeing built the aircraft. Pratt and Whitney built the engines. Other divisions handled airlines and propellers. The entire chain was effectively controlled by one corporation. But the American government wasn't comfortable with this much control being concentrated in one company. In 1934, the airmail scandal exposed just how closely aircraft manufacturers, airlines, and the government had become intertwined. Congress responded with legislation that separated aircraft manufacturers, engine companies, and airlines. United Aircraft and Transport Corporation was broken apart. United Airlines became independent. Pratt and Whitney remained with United Aircraft Corporation, and Boeing was left on its own. William Boeing reportedly hated the decision so much that he sold his stock and left the industry. And that decision created a separation that still exists today. Aircraft manufacturers would build the airframe, specialist companies would build the engines, but here's the interesting part. Boeing didn't simply accept this forever. Starting in the 1940s, the company began developing its own gas turbine engines. It eventually produced thousands of small turbine engines, including the Model 502. The technology was real. The engineers were real. The production was real. But the business wasn't profitable enough. Boeing eventually faced a choice. It could continue investing huge amounts of money into an engine division that couldn't compete with specialist manufacturers, or it could focus its resources on something much bigger. The Boeing 747. Boeing chose the 747. By 1968, the company's engine division had closed permanently, and engineers and money were redirected towards building the jumbo jet. That decision would shape commercial aviation for decades, because building a modern jet engine is on an entirely different level from building an aircraft. A modern turbofan operates with temperatures that can exceed the melting point of the materials inside it. Turbine blades require incredibly sophisticated manufacturing techniques, including single crystal metals and specialized thermal coatings. The tolerances are measured in tiny fractions of a millimeter, and every component has to survive thousands of hours of extreme heat, pressure, and vibration. But the technical challenge is only half the problem. The financial cost is enormous. Developing a modern commercial engine can cost around $10 billion or more. GE Aerospace alone spent around $1.5 billion on research and development in 2025, and even established manufacturers can spend years waiting to recover that investment. The CFM LEAP engine, for example, entered service in 2016 but reportedly didn't break even until 2025. That's almost a decade before the development investment was recovered. And that's for companies that already have decades of experience, specialized factories, testing facilities, supplier networks, and certification expertise. For a new entrant, the risk would be even greater. China provides a perfect example. The country has been developing its own commercial aircraft engines to reduce its dependence on Western manufacturers. But despite enormous state investment, its domestic engine programs have suffered years of delays. The technology simply cannot be rushed, and this is where the economics of the engine business become even stranger. Engine manufacturers don't necessarily make most of their money when they sell the engine. In fact, they can heavily discount engines just to get them onto aircraft. The real money comes afterwards. A commercial jet engine can remain in service for 25 to 40 years. During that time, it needs inspections, repairs, replacement parts, and major overhauls. Manufacturers can therefore make money from the same engine for decades after the aircraft has been delivered. Rolls-Royce pioneered this model with its power-by-the-hour system, where airlines pay based on how much an engine is used rather than simply paying whenever something breaks. It's an incredibly valuable business model, but it requires an enormous installed fleet and decades of support infrastructure. And that's completely different from the way Boeing and Airbus make money. They design and assemble aircraft, deliver them to airlines, collect payment, and move on to the next order. To enter the engine business, they wouldn't simply need to build a factory. They would effectively need to create an entirely separate company with different financial expectations, different expertise, and a completely different time horizon. And there's another problem. Their engine suppliers are also their competitors. Look at the aircraft you can buy today. The Boeing 737 MAX uses CFM LEAP engines. The Airbus A320neo can be equipped with either CFM LEAP or Pratt and Whitney GTF engines. That choice is extremely valuable to airlines. Airlines can compare fuel efficiency, reliability, maintenance networks, and operating costs before deciding which engine they want. If Boeing built its own engine, that choice would disappear from its aircraft, and Boeing would suddenly be competing directly against the companies supplying engines for its own planes. It would also potentially damage relationships with airlines. An airline might reasonably ask whether an engine designed and built by Boeing was optimized for the airline's needs, or for Boeing's own profits. Airbus faces exactly the same problem, and this is why the current arrangement actually makes sense. Boeing and Airbus specialize in what they do best. They design the aircraft. Engine manufacturers specialize in what they do best. They design the engines. This separation also allows engine companies to supply multiple aircraft manufacturers. CFM engines can power Boeing and Airbus aircraft. Pratt and Whitney can compete for Airbus programs. Rolls-Royce supplies engines for aircraft such as the Airbus A350. The enormous development costs can therefore be spread across a much larger market, and the future is only making engines more complicated. Open-fan engines, hydrogen propulsion, and hybrid electric systems could dramatically change commercial aviation. But rather than making the existing engine manufacturers irrelevant, these technologies make their expertise even more valuable. Each new propulsion system requires years of research, testing, and certification. It requires facilities that take decades to develop, and it requires enormous amounts of money before the first commercial aircraft ever enters service. This is why the engine industry has become one of the most difficult oligopolies in the world to challenge. GE Aerospace, Rolls-Royce, and Pratt and Whitney dominate the large commercial engine market, and there hasn't been a serious new competitor capable of breaking that structure for decades. Which brings us back to the strange situation we started with. Boeing and Airbus build some of the most complicated machines ever created. They design wings that flex meters under extreme loads. They manufacture advanced composite fuselages. They integrate millions of lines of software. They manage enormous global supply chains. Yet the heart of every aircraft they sell comes from someone else. And that's not necessarily a weakness, it's a deliberate consequence of economics, engineering, and history. The 1934 antitrust breakup created the original separation. Boeing's own experience proved how difficult engine manufacturing was. Rolls-Royce's near collapse showed how dangerous engine development could become. And the billions of dollars required to develop modern engines have made the industry almost impossible for outsiders to enter. So could Boeing or Airbus build their own engine? Technically, probably. But the real question isn't whether they could. It's whether they would be willing to spend billions of dollars, wait a decade or more for a return, create an entirely new industrial organization and potentially damage relationships with the very companies that currently supply their aircraft. And that's why, despite their names being plastered across almost every commercial aircraft in the sky, Boeing and Airbus have decided that one of the most important parts of the aircraft is better left to someone else. Thanks for watching Simple Concepts Explained. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe for more explanations behind the world's biggest engineering projects, industries, and technologies.